Okay, so start off with just looking at this, which is our grading matrix. So we've seen this multiple times on your mark sheets, but maybe not all four on all of them. But just to kind of go through, this is what we're going to be looking at and comparing your portfolio against. Now, at this stage, we're not expecting any of these to be really complete because it's our first kind of feedback stage. But what we're looking at is where you are on track against these grade criteria. Okay. So we won't be able to confirm if any of them are met, but we'll be able to confirm if you're looking likely to meet them as you move forward with the project. Okay. Cool. So we'll come back to that once we've looked through everything. So I'll just jump onto your website. And on your homepage, you've got your proposal form, which is well filled out, it's thoughtful, and it's all appropriate. Okay, you know, it's a reasonable project. You making it against your own reflection on what you have achieved throughout the year and what you think you're going to be able to achieve, and then you've got a solid plan of how you're going to work to get to that point. So that's all really good. Yeah. So first off, straight away, you know, you've got a good proposal form. You've got a good understanding of the context behind why you're making what you're making from that proposal form as well. So it's starting off in good stead. And then you've got a candidate authentication form there, but we'll need to update that as you get to the end of the year. So context and research then. So we've got a SWOT analysis to begin with, on your context and research. And again, Darren, you know, this is well filled out. You've taken time to really reflect on these things and think about how you're going to use those strengths in your project, how those weaknesses might challenge the project, the opportunities of the project, and the threats that you're going to encounter. So again, through your proposal form and through your SWOT analysis, you've got some good reflection going on as well. So if you think about those two things that we've looked at already, they're tying into context, what you're making, why you're making, and evaluation and reflection of your own ability.
Yeah.
So you're already starting to hit those criteria, yeah, which is really good. So then going into your portfolio proper then as such, so started off with the research and grading task. So you can see then, you know, you're reflecting on what you need to achieve. You're getting that idea of where those grades boundaries sit, and that'll help you understand all this. So that's good. And then I'm going to skip down to your own project, kind of. The beginning of your kind of research into your game starts here, doesn't it? So straight away, we've got kind of a clear idea coming. You know, there's an influence here. So we've seen what someone else has done. Great. And we can see some things we can take from that. So you're using the information that's been given to you. And then we've got your pitch, which is solid. It's got a clear idea. And a clear genre and format. And you've got some ideas of where you're going to go forward with this project there. So again, that reflection context is good. And then some kind of issues around here in terms of problems you're going to encounter or issues that might come up, and then a kind of solid research plan. And then that ties into your proposal with your resources and timetables and then personal rational. So again, really good documentation of the processes that you're going through and how you're reflecting on what you need to achieve and where you're going. So to get into the meat of it, then the research itself. So you've got initially your research into your languages, and I can see that starting to be followed through with you having this creating a writing system on your practical skills page as well. Yeah, so it's something that you're then taking from research into development, which is really good to see because that's that whole pipeline process, isn't it? The things that you're researching into is now feeding into those practical skills that you're developing, and you're starting to think of creating that alphabet, or you've got the alphabet there and start to develop it.
Yeah.
Which is really good. So again, you know, that is exactly the process that we want to see. So that's strong. And then, so your opening stage there. So you've got that diamond that Fraser provided with you, and you've got some of these areas here. Did you find that analysis of Breath of the Wild useful for your idea for the opening stage?
Not really. I don't think I did very deep into the thing, and I wasn't entirely sure of looking at many open stages because like my project is quite complex when it comes to open stage.
I think so. And that's what I thought from looking at this, is that you've done the task, which is great, but then has it actually been useful for you? And I think maybe finding a slightly different game to look at to help that inspiration. One that pops into my head is Call of the Sea. So this is essentially a kind of a puzzle game where you're exploring ancient ruins, although they're more Pacific ancient ruins. And it's got stages that might be a bit more suitable as the kind of opening stages, so kind of puzzle areas. I'll try and find some later ones where you've got to solve like puzzles, put things together, that kind of stuff. So maybe having a look at this type of game as an opening stage might help you kind of get a bit more of a clear idea of how that level is going to play out. Cool. So what I'm going to do is write down, I'm just going to jot things down as I go, and then I'll add them as kind of notes at the end for us. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. And then culture and archaeology. So I can see here starting to explore that idea. And you've got some ideas of how people were in a time, although you're exploring the ancient ruins, so it's how it's going to influence the design areas. I think for me, is just maybe add a paragraph here. You've done that research. So I just read through that. Let's talk about culture. I think maybe it's just either expanding on this, or if this is expanded on later on. So by using that idea, I could possibly make something unique about the culture of an ancient society in my game and give hints on it. So is that then followed up in your later research? And if so, document that process. We've got environmental storytelling. And I think there's some really nice things here. You know, I think this section is really good. And breaking that down. And what's really important is that we see, as you start to design your level, those three things coming into play. So make sure when you get into practical skills, you're identifying where you're providing understanding for the player, where you're providing feeling, and where you're providing identity. Yeah. And just one little thing there, you just got a typo in feeling. Okay. And then we've got some stuff in inclusivity, so thinking about that, which is good. And then game research. So environmental storytelling in Minecraft. So I think for me, in terms of where the research is, you've got a really good start. It's now developing a bit further. So I think that needs to come from looking at similar games and doing maybe some more research on examples of environmental storytelling in more types of games. So thinking about where there might be other games that are maybe more similar and they have that environmental storytelling. I think if we're thinking about games set in ancient places, Uncharted is probably a good one to look at. Because you've got all those kind of old ruins areas, you know, temples and pyramids and things like that. Bethesda games, so thinking like Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Starfield, they tend to have really good environmental storytelling going on. Another one you could look at is probably Plague Tale, although it's a bit more modern. And I'm trying to think if there's one that's a bit more Roman. And I would say possibly Rise, but I'm not sure how much in storytelling, so I'd have to have a look at that again. But I'll send all those through to you as examples for you to look at. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was something I was really considering doing, but like, I was also considering to play games for like, what was it called? What? Just researching the game myself, looking into the game myself. So, you know, I have the point of view of the player, who
Yeah.
plays the game and has no idea what the ins do or what do they mean, and just I'm trying to figure it out myself as the player.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I had problem with it. Like, I'm not sure. I will try to play some games, but like, it's likely not going to happen and such stuff, which is a big problem for that. But
Yeah,
I'm
I think
planning on doing it. Yeah, go on.
so. I think you don't necessarily. It doesn't have to always be about that information to the player. Sometimes it's just about the environmental storytelling, giving you like you've identified here that feeling of the space.
Yeah.
Is it a moody, gloomy environment? Is it a dusty old environment? Is it so? It's that kind of aspect of it as well. So, don't worry too if you want the player to do most of the exploring and finding out, experimenting through play. Don't worry too much about that understanding element. Focus on the feeling and identity side of it. And I think that identity side of it is probably where the next area would come in for me. What I think is missing from here is architecture. So if you think about, I mean, you're setting it in an ancient land. You've looked at kind of Greek and Roman era. Is that what you're thinking? Are you thinking it's Western civilization, ancient Greek, ancient Roman? Or are you thinking it's like ancient Northern Europe or ancient South America? Or is it something entirely different?
I would say it's more like related to Roman and such stuff, but it's not like 100% decided. And
Yeah.
also for identity, like as much as I understood the research, identity more relates to the character. Like, for example, the character wants to go explore ruins, and because he wants to explore ruins, the player knows that this character is an explorer or something like that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think so again, yeah, I think again bring that back then to architecture because I think if you like even something like I'm going to type in Roman, I'm probably wrong. I think it's Greek, but if we type in Roman column types, and then we've got see here you've got all these different types. They're all from
Yeah.
different eras or areas. So Roman Ionic, so that's the C in between Rome and Greece. So you're around that area, you'd see that kind of style. But let's have a look at different ones. Let's go into that. Corinthian, yeah, it's a different part, different sea, different area, really different style. So it's just things like that. Once you start looking into the architecture, and that'll help you build, even if it's an interior, I'm not saying it has to be columns, but whatever it is, whether that's the bricks being used, whether that is the size of the base, if we type in Roman temple, yeah, we've got things like this, and then how does that differ from, let's say, a Syrian temple? So very similar, but slight differences.
Yeah.
So I just think some of that research will help you because yours is environment design at its core, isn't it? That's the main thing. Yeah. So it's just really get that style established, and architecture will help you do that, and you can look at those spaces. So I think for me, that's probably just the two areas where we need to develop that research more at the moment is into looking at other similar games. So expanding kind of this section so that it's more relevant to what you want to get from it. And then looking into architecture as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
For this thing, like, architecture and such stuff, my idea was like to make my own type of ancient society. It's not directly related to romance and such stuff, but I want the player to kind of relate those to something existing already,
Yeah.
so it can tie up with research in that way. But it has to be something unique by itself, I guess.
Yeah, I think don't try and reinvent the wheel, but use something that is similar. So absolutely, yeah, make something new, but look at existing things and then alter their design. So that architectural research will still be relevant. So, I mean, I think a nice easy one is if we start to look at this genre. And you can see like some of this is AI and stuff like that, but you take existing things, existing styles, and you distort them or you pervert them. And again, this is, so you see that's like a Gothic style, but it's also Asian. Yeah, so it's like a Japanese building there, but it's also Gothic. So by looking at examples and then playing around with them, you can then start to manipulate them. So I think still do that architect's research, but absolutely don't be beholden to it, because you are doing a fantasy game in essence, aren't you? So be free to play around with it and use that to explore your ideas.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so and then just on here you got your pitch, which is good, and then you got your reflection there, which is really good. And then so I think it kind of probably ties in with what Fraser said here. So have a proper idea, ruin look, level sketches, do that research and architecture to help you with those level sketches. Yeah. Cool. And then bibliography you've been keeping, so that's really good. Well done. Excellent. Really good to see. So where are we then against this? I would say at the moment you're absolutely on track towards that pass. You know, if you keep going the way you're going, you'll definitely be in that pass area for understanding subject context, used appropriately to make judgments, describe aims, and clarify purpose. I think a little bit more research into environmental storytelling and similar games is going to push, and the architecture as well will push that up into that merit area. Okay.
Yeah.
I think research at the moment, there's sufficient relevant information that's been gathered, documented, and used development of ideas. Same thing, you're not that far off that merit area there. If you follow up on everything I'm saying to you now, I would say that would push that into thorough and sustained research. And if that then informs your idea development, then that would hit that interpretation and synthesis area. Yeah. So if you do the research I said, and then we see it realized in your project, that would push that up into that merit. Practical skills, obviously I just had a little glimpse of what you're making. That looks good so far. Make sure you're documenting all that as you're making it. Yes. But I would say at this stage, I don't want to say where we are with that because there's not enough evidence for it yet. But at this stage, I wouldn't expect there to be enough evidence for that. Okay. And then evaluation and reflection. I think actually, Darren, at the moment, you're probably sitting more in this area here already. So effective communication of analysis and interpretation. So that's definitely going on. You know, you've got really good reflection so far. Independent synthesis of information. I can see that beginning to happen. And I can see the application of reasoned decision making as well. Again, to secure that, follow up on what myself and Fraser have fed back today and when he did the feedback for you previously, and that will secure it into that merit. So where I am at the moment, Darren, is I'm confident if everything keeps going at this rate it's going at the moment, that you will be achieving that pass. I think you're perfectly able to achieve that merit if you follow up on everything we've kind of discussed and the feedback going forward. Okay, so I think you're in good shape at the moment, so well done. And keep going at it and make sure you follow up on what we're advising. Okay, cool. Any questions before we kind of finish off?
Let me consider. Can't think of anything exactly.
Okay, and that's fine. If anything pops up, just let us know, of course. Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
Sure.
Good. Okay, excellent, Darren. So like I said, I'll send this through to you once it's finished processing. And if you add it to your final product evaluation page, just basically put it under this area here. Yeah. A bit of formative feedback too. Okay, cool. Great. Thank you very much.
Okay.